It's late 1968. Two high school students were going on a drive down Lake Herman Road, in which this night was supposed to be a quiet night. Before this, one of the students was an Eagle Scout and was even given the God and Country Award. At around 10 to 11:05 p.m., the couple were attacked. This attack would leave both high school students dead, with one being shot and the other was still alive, but died when he got to the hospital. These two people were David Arthur Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen. These two murders would lead to one of the most infamous men to terrorize the San Francisco area. This man would claim to do over 30 murders, with only 5 being confirmed. This man is the infamous Zodiac Killer. Immediately following these killings, he waited around 7 months to kill his next targets, Darlene Farron and Michael Mayhew. Darlene may have been a target due to her position at a local restaurant, where she had met Michael. Now, Darlene was married to Arthur Farron at the time, so the two had an affair and went on a date. She drove to Michael's house, and they went around 11:50 at night. While driving to a lover's lane, they noticed a light-colored car following them. They pulled into an empty parking lot, and the stranger parked around 80 feet from the couple, on the complete other side. He turned off his lights and stayed there motionless. Michael had asked who the driver was, and Darlene said not to worry. While getting into it, a flashlight was shown into the car. They rolled down the window thinking it was an officer, but instead of being asked what they were doing, they were instead hit with a 9mm pistol shot at them. Michael was shot in the arm, with Darlene being shot in the neck. Michael tried leaving the car, but the door handles were taken off. The assailant left the couple to die. Darlene died there and then, but Michael survived. He would later survive the entire encounter, recovering from his wounds. The crime was reported, but what was said was very eerie.
Vallejo Police Department.
I want to report a double murder.
May I have your
Go
name
1
and where
mile
you're calling?
east on Columbus Parkway, Public Park. You'll find kids in a brown car. They were shot with a 9mm Luger. I also killed those kids last year. Goodbye.
And with this one phone call, the Zodiac Killer would start his infamous playing with the media. Now, before we continue, it's best we talk about a theory with Darlene. In 1966, she was photographed with an ex-boyfriend named Richard. That Richard man is considered to be the Zodiac because of his similarity to the police sketch. But there isn't much evidence to back this claim up. But it's still an interesting theory to think about. The first letters from the Zodiac to be given to the media was on August 1st, 1969, saying, "I am the killer of the 2 teenagers last Christmas at Lake Herman and the girl last July 4th. There were a total of around 3 letters full of misspelled words and hard-to-read handwriting. The letter is also the first to have his infamous cryptograph way of writing. The system is honestly something I struggle to understand myself, and I won't be going over it, but I will try to find a video and put it in the description. But these letters also introduce him to the infamous Zodiac Killer handle. The cryptograph he had was the famous Z408. It said when investigators cracked this cryptograph, they would have his identity. Once decoded, it said, "I hope you are having lots of fun in trying to catch me. That wasn't me on the TV show." Which brings up a point about me. I am not afraid of the gas chamber because it will send me to paradise. All the sooner because I have enough slaves to work for me where everybody else has nothing when they reach paradise, so they are afraid of death. Now, the letter says that wasn't me on the TV show. What he's referring to is the infamous "This is the Zodiac" speaking moment on Jim Dubar's show.
Who am I speaking with?
This is the Zodiac speaking.
Is there something I can call you that's a little less ominous?
Sam.
Sam. Is there somewhere we can meet Sam and talk about this?
Meet me on top of the Fairmont Hotel without anyone else, or I'll jump.
Have a unit go to the Fairmont Hotel.
Sam.
Yes.
After this, there were around 2 more murders that this man did. At 4 p.m. on September 27, 1969, 2 specific Union College students, Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard were having a nice, relaxing picnic. But that would all change when they noticed a man with an executioner's hood and clipped-on sunglasses watching them. This was the infamous Zodiac killer outfit, which we'll take a look at real quick. We already went over the hood and the glasses, but he also wore a bib with the infamous Zodiac symbol on it. It's widely theorized where that symbol comes from, but there is a line of watches called Zodiac, and if you look at the logo, they look very similar. More on that later. Now it's debated what color pants he wears, but he's mostly depicted with black pants, but he's also mostly depicted with tan pants. So I really didn't know which one to choose. And lastly, a belt that had ropes and a knife and a gun holster. The Zodiac had Brian hand him his wallet and car keys. He said he had just escaped prison and was fleeing to Mexico. Once he had both, he had Shepard tie Hartnell up. They were both tied up, and the Zodiac stabbed Brian 6 times, with Cecilia being stabbed 10 times. After the stabbings, they both had consciousness and were untied by a fisherman and his son. The Zodiac was long gone by then. He had hiked up 500 feet. But before this, he wrote the infamous words on the side of the car. On the way to the hospital, Cecilia fell into a coma and died 2 days later to her wounds, with Brian living. 27 miles away from the crime scene, the Zodiac reported his double murder to the police and left the payphone off the hook. Once again, getting away. Why he targeted these two, have no theories on why he did, but Brian survived the Zodiac killer, being one of the lucky few people to ever do it. The date is October 11th, 1969. In downtown San Francisco, a man had waved down a taxi. The taxi driver at the time, Paul Stein, thought that this would be a routine ride. The man gave him a destination of somewhere in Presidio Heights. When they arrived, the man asked to be taken another block. Stein had agreed and did so. After this, the man shot Paul in the back of the head. The man took his wallet and car keys. It's important to know that the Zodiac never wore his suit again. If he had wore it again, he would have instantly been caught. After this murder, the Zodiac cut a piece of Paul's shirt and fled. A house across the street had 3 teenagers witness the murder. They saw his face in clear view, and they called the police. They described it and said that he was a white man that wore a black jacket. This is what led a dispatcher to mistakenly say that the man was black. Due to the police sketch of his face, the Zodiac threatened to shoot tires on a school bus and shoot kids while they got off of that bus. This led to San Francisco having to put guards on school buses. In recent years, we all know that the Zodiac killer was most likely Arthur Lee Allen. There is plenty of evidence pointing to him being the killer, like the fact he wore Zodiac Seawolf watches that have a symbol that's close to the Zodiac's, and how he looks like the Zodiac when he was younger, and plenty more. But there were also other suspects, around 2,499 more suspects to be exact. But the one who most likely resembles the Zodiac is Gary Francis Poet. Sadly, Arthur Lee Allen died in 1992 and said no to being the Zodiac killer on his deathbed. But evidence in recent years have kind of proven that Gary Francis Poet may have been the Zodiac. But evidence points in both ways for Arthur and Gary. There's also evidence that points in the way of Richard Hoffman, which may sound familiar because Darlene Ferrin dated a man named Richard. The Zodiac killer has inspired many things in media and pop culture, a well-known example being the Riddler from the 2022 Batman movie. The Zodiac's entire fiasco and mystery also inspired many other characters, like Scorpio in Dirty Harry, the Gemini Killer in The Exorcist, and more. He had 2 movies made about him. One was screened in 1971 and was really made to lure the Zodiac there. They had police there ready at all screenings and had a paper that said, "I think the Zodiac killed because," and they would write what they thought. They apprehended one suspect, but let him go due to lack of evidence. And of course, the 2007 movie Zodiac, where they put actual effort and acting into the film. The film isn't a bad watch either, though the 1971 version is. Now, there are many unanswered questions to the case, like who is the real killer? What do the encrypted messages say? We don't have answers to these questions, but they open many possibilities. We may never know who the Zodiac was, but when, or if we do, find out who it is, that would be a great end to the case. But the Zodiac killer has definitely left a stain on the San Francisco people, making him one of the most infamous serial killers in American history.
Love